Hey, welcome to the explainer. You know that feeling you get, that gut feeling that's so strong it's almost physical, but you just can't logically explain it? Well, today, we're going to demystify that exact experience. We're diving into the powerful, and let's be honest, sometimes overwhelming world of intuition. And this quote from Dr. DeeAnna Nagel, wow, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? This idea of a mess of emotions you can't categorize. I mean, a lot of us have been there, but it's so hard to put into words. Maybe it was a sudden, out-of-the-blue sense of dread about something, or that unshakable feeling you got about a person you just met, or maybe just a piece of information that popped into your head from nowhere. That feeling, that overwhelming, undefined sense, that's exactly what we're digging into today. And to really get a handle on this, we're going to follow the personal journey of Dr. Nagel. Her story is fascinating because she went from being completely overwhelmed and frightened by these experiences to understanding them as a seriously powerful gift. You have to understand, for Dr. Nagel, this wasn't some gentle little whisper of intuition. She calls it a full-body assault. Can you imagine? An experience so intense it left her totally exhausted, drained, and just desperate to make it all stop. And look, this wasn't some overnight transformation. It was a slow, gradual process. As a kid, these things were just plain scary. Then, as a young adult, she tried to just ignore it all, rely purely on logic. It really wasn't until much later, with help from mentors, that she finally started to accept and even cherish these abilities. Okay, so what are we actually talking about here? What does this stuff feel like in the real world? Let's get out of the abstract and into some concrete examples, because Dr. Nagel lays out some really tangible ones. These aren't just vague hunches. They're really distinct, memorable events. I mean, really think about it. Have you ever walked into a house and just felt a wave of dread? Or stared at your inbox and just knew that one email had bad news? Or maybe you've been with a friend and felt their sadness so deeply it felt like your own. These experiences are real, and they are visceral. So take a look at that list. Is any of that ringing a bell for you? Just being able to recognize these moments is a huge first step, because once you start mapping them out, you begin to see patterns. And that's how we start to move from total confusion to real clarity. All right, so how do we even begin to wrap our heads around all this? Well, the key, it turns out, is to stop thinking about intuition as one big messy thing. Instead, there's a system, a framework that breaks it down into something way more manageable. It's called the clair senses. Basically, the clair part just means clear. So think of them as your clear senses. They're these psychic sensitivities that kind of mirror our regular physical senses. And yeah, this is the same stuff that people used to call ESP, or extrasensory perception. So let's break them down. First up, you've got clairvoyance, or clear vision. This has nothing to do with your actual eyes. This is when you get a sudden picture in your head, like a quick flash of a scene or a symbol, right in your mind's eye. Then you've got clairaudience, which is clear hearing. This is about perceiving sounds that aren't actually there for your ears to hear. It could be like hearing your name called when nobody's in the room, or having a single super clear word of advice just pop into your thoughts. And this next one, clairsentience, or clear feeling. This is a big one. This is probably the one most of us are familiar with. It's that classic gut feeling, right? The goosebumps on your arms. It also includes what's called clair empathy, which is when you can literally feel what other people are feeling. And this is where it gets really interesting, because there's a subtle but super important difference here. Clairvoyance is about seeing something in your mind, but there's another one, claircognizance, which is about clear knowing. It's that feeling of, I just know this. No pictures, no sounds, just bam, an instant download of information straight into your brain. So just to pull that all together, this intuitive info can show up in different ways, right? It can be something you see in your mind, something you hear as an inner voice, or something you just flat out know. Figuring out which of these channels is most active for you is absolutely key. And believe it or not, it gets even more specific. Beyond those main three, the framework also covers things like clairalliance, clear smelling, or clairgustance, clear tasting. And then there's clairpresence, that unmistakable feeling that a spirit or some other entity is right there in the room with you. Okay, so why does any of this matter? Why bother putting a name to it? Because once you can categorize an experience, you can start to manage it. You stop just reacting to these feelings and you start actively working with them. You're basically building your own sixth sense toolkit.
For Dr. Nagel, this was the real challenge. She said the two hardest things were, 1, knowing what to actually do with the information she was getting, and 2, figuring out how to manage the flow so she wasn't just constantly being bombarded by it all.
And this leads to a total game changer in how you think about it. See, the goal isn't to build a giant wall to shut your intuition down. It's to install a valve. You learn how and when to be an open channel, which means you get to be in control of the flow. So how do you actually build that valve? Well, Dr. Nagel lays out this really practical 4-step process. It starts with intention, deciding what you want to use your intuition for. Then comes mindfulness, which is just noticing the info as it arrives without judging it. Next is containment, practicing managing that flow. And finally, you develop discernment, the wisdom to know what this information means and what, if anything, you should do about it. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that this overwhelming mess of emotions we call intuition, it's not actually one chaotic thing. It's a whole spectrum of different senses. And by learning to identify these clair senses, you're not just organizing the chaos, you're basically drawing a map to your own inner world. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Thinking about the clair senses, clear seeing, clear hearing, clear feeling, clear knowing. Which of those resonates the most with you and your own experiences? Because just being able to give it a name, well, that's the first, most powerful step toward understanding it.